Combs Foundation and Pathway, both for joining forces and putting this together, and thanking all of you for being here, which is the first step in ending both breast cancer and cancer in general. So I'd like you all to give yourselves a round of applause. So cancer right now is the #2 killer in the United States. Every minute, 11.8 people die of cancer. Breast cancer is one of the top causes of death in women. And every man, 50% of all men have a chance of getting cancer, and 1/3 of all women have a chance of getting cancer. It's a very, very serious, obviously, problem in our society. We all know someone that has it, had it, or has been affected by it, and our lives have obviously been touched by it. So personally, my grandfather died when I was about 11 years old of cancer. I didn't understand what it was. I was very close to him, and it was something that obviously affected my life greatly. And about 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, one of my closest friends that many of you in the room know, Tom Sherrick, told me he had cancer, but he was fine. 6 weeks before he died, about 8 months ago, he sat at dinner with me and said, you know, I'm not feeling so great, but I'm fine. And 6 weeks later, I watched him pass away. And it was not only a moment where I recognized how significant cancer influences everybody's lives, but how important it is to make a difference. And something that was right in front of me, which I never really paid attention to, is that my father had been working on a cure for cancer for 6 years, and very aggressively, and worked with the City of Hope in putting together 5 different companies, which he recently sold to a company called Juno. A little bit irrelevant, except that it does deal with cancer, and it's what led me to start thinking about it. And his company now in clinical trials has cured close to 90% of all brain tumors, which is amazing. So the next step while we're waiting for someone to actually cure cancer is how do you prevent it? How do you prevent disease? How do you prevent cancer? And in looking for that next step and in searching for how I could get involved, I came across Pathway. And Pathway Genomics, for those of you that don't know, and I think a lot of you do know, is a company that is effectively a DNA mapping company. It's a genetic mapping company that looks at your DNA and tells you effectively what you have an inclination for in the future, including cancer and including breast cancer, which is what we're here tonight to talk about. And in my opinion, having looked at the 5 or 6 companies out there that are doing this, they're not only the best, they're doing it right, they're doing it with integrity, and they're doing it with growth and looking really at the future of how to end disease, not just cancer. And so in the process, while we're waiting for a cure, and turning back to breast cancer, the ability to actually get a test, and in the case of Pathway, to, without being vulgar, be able to spit in a little jar, send it in, and 2 weeks later be told that you have a high degree of chance of getting breast cancer, and here's what you can do to actually not get it, is amazing. And the fact that every single person isn't not only doing it, but isn't forced to do it at birth and be told, this is what you have a chance of having, and this is how you can end it, is amazing to me. And when I found out that you actually could do this, and it actually has 80% and 85% accuracy rates, it was staggering to me that it's not part of our everyday life. So I got involved with Pathway, and thanks to an introduction from Pathway with the Susan B. Combs Foundation. And the two together are now working on ending breast cancer through prevention versus cure. So I think everybody in the room has probably heard a little bit about, or a lot about, Angelina Jolie and the BRCA test that she had, and the fact that she had a double vasectomy in order to prevent her from getting breast cancer. And that's because she had what's called the BRCA test. Many of you know about it. Some of you may not, but it means she basically had greater than an 80% chance of getting cancer. And one of the things she said in the press, and it was correct, and one of the things she's been advocating, is that this test costs between $5,000 and $8,000. And that means that the general population cannot afford it, and that's a big problem. What I've recently learned, and what the Susan B. Combs Foundation launched today, is an initiative specifically helping African American women, because African American women have a 70% greater chance of dying from breast cancer than Caucasian women. And that's because they don't actually have the prevention tools, and they don't actually go and get the tests that they need to get. So last week, Pathway announced that they are giving the BRCA test. Is it one of 3 companies? One of 4 companies? One of 3 companies that have it for $300 versus the $5,000. So I do want to say, because I know many of us have causes and different ailments that have affected our family and our lives, that the purpose of Pathway is not just breast cancer and cancer, but it's literally to use this to understand the future of what may be a potential problem and how to solve it before it becomes a problem. Tonight we're here to celebrate the hopefully preventing of breast cancer, but in general, Pathway is here to help understand what your future may be and stop that from happening. And I couldn't be more proud to be here. Thank you again for coming. And I'm most proud to introduce the visionary behind this and the person who created this, Jim Plante.